Do you still believe the president could be a Russian asset?
I think it's possible. I think that's why we started our investigation, and I'm really anxious to see where Director Mueller concludes that.
Do you hate this guy?
Wow, that's a really tough question. I'm going to have to say no.
He really looks to me like sort of a poor man's J. Edgar Hoover. I think he's a disaster.
In May in 2017, right after Jim Comey was fired, questions are being asked whether Jim Comey was fired to obstruct the Russia investigation, and if so, is the president an agent of Russia?
We've been through a series of really strange and troubling interactions between the president and Jim Comey. And then, of course, there's that watershed moment where he asks Jim Comey to drop the Michael Flynn case, which is, of course, something we would never do. In the wake of that ask, we were all stepping back and realizing, like, this is not just inexperience talking. This is not just a lack of knowledge about how the FBI works and how the Department of Justice, where we fit in this town. This was an actual attempt to kind of put a thumb on the scales and impact the work that we were doing for their benefit.
A meeting with the president in the Oval Office just hours after Comey was fired.
I was speaking to the man who had just run for the presidency and won the election for the presidency, and who might have done so with the aid of the government of Russia. We were in possession of facts that made it abundantly clear that we had an articulable basis to believe that that threat might exist. And under those circumstances, the FBI is obligated to open a case. If we don't open a case because the subject happens to be the President of the United States, we're not doing our job. I wanted to make sure that our case was on solid ground, and if somebody came in behind me and closed it and tried to walk away from it, they would not be able to do that without creating a record of why they'd made that decision. I've had a lot of exposure to public corruption cases over the years. I had never seen or heard anything quite like this. He did not believe that the North Koreans had the capability to hit us here with ballistic missiles in the United States. And he did not believe that because President Putin had told him they did not. President Putin had told him that the North Koreans don't actually have those missiles. Intelligence officials in the briefing responded that that was not consistent with any of the intelligence our government possesses. To which the president replied, "I don't care, I believe Putin." What I can say is the Deputy Attorney General was definitely very concerned about the president, about his capacity, and about his intent at that point in time. And in the context of that conversation, the Deputy Attorney General offered to wear a wire into the White House. If the president committed obstruction of justice, fired the director of the FBI to negatively impact or to shut down our investigation of Russia's malign activity, possibly in support of his campaign, as a counterintelligence investigator, you have to ask yourself, why would a president of the United States do that?
McCabe says Rosenstein raised another idea. The 25th Amendment to the Constitution allows the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to remove the president.
It was an unbelievably stressful time. I can't even describe for you how many things must have been coursing through the Deputy Attorney General's mind at that point. In that moment, I couldn't give myself the luxury of wallowing in that kind of hate. I had a job to do. And 37,000 employees I was responsible for, whose job is to protect America and uphold the Constitution. I couldn't afford to get in a insult trading match with the President of the United States. As absurd as that even sounds, I can't believe I just said it.